Okay, hello and welcome back. Yes, we are still doing our lives, beginnings, and always. I didn't finish the Derek DLC last week, though I tried really hard, but my voice was fading and I had things to do. So we're going to finish it today. And then the Baxter DLC has been released. It was released last week. So I will spend, and I made sure to get it. So I will take the time between this week and next week to get that set up, because I have to update the base game, update the Derek DLC, the Step 3 DLC, the Step 2 DLC, and the Baxter. So I have to do all of that between now and next week. But since I already have everything set for the Derek DLC, we'll finish with this build of the game, and then next week we'll be starting with the new build. So that being said, I hope everyone had a great week and everything. I went out of town this weekend, which is why I didn't stream Mass Effect on Sunday. I was visiting a friend that I hadn't seen for a couple months, and when we did see each other, it was not a great time for me. Well, for either of us, especially me. So we got to spend time together, just chat, and really just relax in a way. So I'm feeling energized. Hopefully this won't be too much longer. I apologize if this is shorter than usual. Okay, so what's been happening is we are on the epilogue basically for the game, and you've been in town staying with Derek to hang out with people and stuff and just have fun. And then and basically you've been going through each day, and this is like third or fourth day. So Nico has basically told you to, he can tell that, he knows that Derek's interested in you, and he can tell that you're interested in Derek. So he's basically telling you, get off your ass and talk to him. Okay, so Derek pressed our button on his phone screen and ended the call. Alright. Nico's gesture really was sweet. It might have been years since you last babysat him, but you still held a special attachment for him that you didn't for any other teen. Derek let out another long sigh, still holding the phone in the air. He looked up at the device as if it was a magic wand.
Oh, man.
I should have figured. Derek, what were you gonna say before you called? Oh, right, what was he gonna say? Oh, yeah. You ended up staying up playing video games and fell asleep doing that. Derek shook his head with a wry expression. I was about to say that with my own place we didn't have to worry about little brothers interrupting our peaceful morning together. And Nico still managed to do that. Technology has proven me wrong. He snorted. Nicholas didn't ever need to call us psychic. The timing was prophetic. Speak of the devil, right? He must have called as soon as he dragged himself out of bed. Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously Derek looks amazing as an adult, and we also have seen the rest of his family grown up. Nicholas, bleh, I can talk really, has this really colorful rainbow jumper, and honestly, I think Nico might come out as non-binary. Just a vibe that I'm getting, but he's like 16. And Jorge, the middle brother, he definitely takes after Derek. Like, Nick takes after their mom, but Derek and Jorge take after their dad in terms of coloring and stuff. But Derek is definitely broader than either of his brothers, but he's shorter than both of them. Well, he will be once Nico's finished growing. Typical Nico. He shrugged a single shoulder and then reached down to place his phone on the table again.
It's no problem.
We can still take it easy, though. You should take it as easy as possible before a stressful trip. He carefully disentangled himself from you and got to his feet. He flopped down onto the couch as he slipped out, suddenly blessed with more space. Yeah, you end up, basically sleeping on top of each other. It was really cute. Push yourself up and settled into a sitting position. I'm gonna take a shower and everything, then we should have breakfast. Finally left the mild comfort of the couch, taking out the remaining sleepiness. Nice plan. I'll get ready too.
Talk to you later.
See you soon. I forgot to grab my dice. No, he didn't. With that, he headed off to the back of the apartment. You skipped to your room to begin your normal morning routine after a particularly not normal start to the day. Derek's insistence on playing in pajamas had certainly worked out in ways you hadn't foreseen. Maybe he had an inkling of it. With two game-loving brothers, it was possible he had practiced dozing off on the controller before. While changing your wrinkled clothes, your phone buzzed with a text from your sister. Liz was giving you the heads up that she was going to pop in to see some friends in the afternoon. Look, she had the chance, but she'd be there to see you off before the end of the day. My mouse has been a pain in the butt. You typed a quick message letting her know that was cool and sent it. When you finished your morning ritual, you returned out to the main area of the apartment. Finished with his own daily prep, Derek had made his way back to the couch. He couldn't stay away for long. Welcome back. I mean, come on. Hello. Gorgeous. If only my mouse would work so I could circle him. There we go. Sort of. There we go, yeah. Just gorgeous. Thank you. Hunger had become a third wheel to your party by that point, and you got to work to send it on its way. You and Derek threw something together and had a relaxed meal. It was all good. The two of you could pretend that this wasn't the last time you'd be waking up together for who knew how long. I heard from Liz. She's busy this afternoon, but said she's going to see us later on. He nodded along, not looking shocked. Liz grew up in the area too. She had plenty of roosts to water in that land.
Anyway.
Speaking of people to see, my family's coming over here today, and so is Liz, but we've got to ask your moms and your dad still. Dad being, Cove's dad. Cliff Holden. They're gonna want to say bye, I bet. Thanks for letting them visit. I'll text them. Of course, it's gonna be so cool to open my own place to the grown-ups after being their guests a million times. That's true. And I love having you here with me. It's like we're living together for real, permanently, as if you weren't just a guest.
That's a bummer.
Too bad it's gotta end. All morning he'd appeared giddy, excited by your presence. That light still shone through, but averting your eyes from reality wasn't a foolproof strategy. He accidentally broken the illusion. Pressed his lips together tight and his brow pulled intensely. Today's gotta be big. It's the last chance. We should do something you couldn't do anywhere else. Brace yourself for the coming conclusion and then smiled. I like the way you think. We should come up with something. Let's end the trip on a high note.
It's
the last chance. The third words came back softly, a more fragile echo of the original. I guess they held even more weight. Well, he paused to take in a deep, intentional breath. Then he plainly offered a suggestion. We could go to the boardwalk.
What do you think?
It's even further away than the water park, and we'll probably have to leave after only an hour, but we can make it if you want to. What do you think? Derek's normally clear eyes were clouded with emotion. The boardwalk was a special place to him. Are you kidding? We gotta go. That's perfect. One of these two. Come on. Where is my mouse? Why are you being like this? Invisible optic. Invisible so much that it's not even working. Well, that's not gonna do any good. What's the point of having this optic thing if it's not gonna work right? Are you kidding? We gotta go. That's not even working. Come on. Why? Why? Why must you do this to me? Could you run out the door right now? It can't be too early.
Let's get to it.
Yes, let's do it. He's halfway to jumping to his feet before he realized where he was. As soon as we finished our food, obviously. That did not seem obvious to Derek until a second ago. Eat on the road, need the energy. We'll need the energy.
Right.
Very true. You both finished every bite of your breakfast, although you could tell that Derek was rushing. Place your dishes in the sink after Derek's. Just leave them, I'll wash them later. You didn't comment on the slightly out of character action and instead started putting together what you needed for the trip. You want us to get to the boardwalk, of course. After you had packed up some supplies, you headed out to the car. During the drive, Derek's brain was in sharp focus. We should make sure everyone knows that the get-together will be for dinner, a late-ish dinner.
I got you.
I'll leave it to you if you want to tell the gang about our own plans for the day or keep it a secret. I don't know if you want to deal with everyone asking why they weren't invited, but they are a lot more grown-up than they used to be. Sometimes I forget that. It's our secret. He put a finger to his lips. I won't say a word. You can't tell everyone everything all the time. After a very long ride and some struggles with parking, Derek had to resort to circling like a vulture until a spot opened up. You and Derek were strolling under a wide blue sky into the bustling boardwalk. Gee, this looks familiar. The boardwalk amusement park was as dizzying and dazzling as it was 10 years ago. Music was playing from storefronts, screams flared out at the peaks of the coaster, and crowds of people were laughing and talking from all sides. You knew as soon as the scent of the sea and fried foods struck your senses that this was the right call for your last stop on your trip with Derek. At your side, Derek spoke, soft and sentimental. We made it. It's been a long time coming. Together you stepped further down the path. For a place that felt so alive, it was almost uncanny how little had changed over the years. The bike rental store was there, though they also offered shiny new electric scooters. There were still vibrant stalls offering a variety of fair foods, and the two big rides, the roller coaster and the Ferris wheel, continued to tower above the bustling crowds. You were sure of one difference without needing to see it. The face painting counter would have a total stranger running it. Xavier had moved on to decorating cakes rather than children's cheeks. Still, being there was a time machine to a summer long gone. You and Derek were two teens once again. He got your attention with enough boyish excitement to confirm it.
So?
What do you want to do while we can? We'll have to leave pretty early to make it back for the farewell dinner. But we can ride the rides, grab a treat, browse some stores, or hell, we could rent our own bikes if you want. His pure enthusiasm made frowns outright impossible. You chuckled, the joy vibrating through you coming out. Your first time at the boardwalk was an experience. It was such a huge trip. Both of your parents and siblings had been there, but separated into two groups. For better and for worse, you went all across the very boards currently under your feet. Meanwhile, the adults hadn't had their heels on the floor, they were fit into pedals. The shock you felt learning they'd gone off on bikes without a care in the world was as fresh as ever in your mind. And that wasn't all that lingered within you. Important decisions about face painting, nickel being carried around like a sack of potatoes, snacks on the bench as the sun set, and the Ferris wheel. Doing it not only in hindsight but as an adult made the moments even more significant. They were precious. You'd never experienced your first time here again, or what it was like to be 13 when the world was only beginning to open up wide. Even so, your thoughts weren't completely tinged in rose. A fuzzy blanket of nostalgia couldn't make you forget how it almost wasn't a nice time, how it only got to stay good because one person cared enough to make certain it did. How Derek Suarez cared more for others than himself. That remains starkly true about him more than a decade later. For the brief time you'd been in the area, he gladly let Nicholas direct the activity multiple times and did his best to not let Jorge feel left out. Along with looking out for his own family, he never let that supersede your comfort or wants. He accommodated your sister too, after he put in all the effort to help her come see everyone. You were sure he had fun being a part of the misadventures, but most times he'd been a passenger in the exploits, despite having to be the person who drove everyone else. That answered Derek's question for you. My only contribution is you choose. I feel like you should have a boardwalk makeup day where you get to do whatever you want after how many outings you've let other people have their way. Derek's grin collapsed open. A crease formed in his brows. He was stunned and very touched. While the appreciation was unmistakable, he hesitated to accept such an offer.
Don't worry about
You don't
that.
have to do that. It's your vacation, and you missed out on stuff too. You weren't surprised by that response, but it didn't play like a rejection. He only needed some extra encouragement, like a kid who thought it was bad to open a present before his birthday, even if he got permission from the giver. Maybe a little, but never because of you, Derek. You're not taking me for granted. Eye contact temporarily failed him. Derek watched his own foot scuff at the spot where one slab of wood met another. Downturned face didn't hide the wide smile across it. Thanks, Jules. It's my pleasure. Yeah, because he's looking after everyone else, right? He's looked after his brothers, and he held on to Nico during that boardwalk trip because his parents were on the bikes and he didn't want to interrupt that. So someone needs to put Derek first, and it's not Derek, so might as well be you. Gradually, his normal confidence returned. It wasn't a mistake. He wasn't doing something wrong. He could simply enjoy himself, and he would.
Come on.
Okay, then if you're positive, sure, want to get our faces painted? We've got to start the day, right? That's a wonderful idea. Woo! Derek spun in a half circle and resolutely thrust a hand ahead of him, straight towards the chosen destination.
Nice.
I'm gonna get whatever I want. It could be anything. The sky's the limit. The cheer in his voice and the shimmer in his eyes was better than any thrill the boardwalk could have offered. You almost had to feel guilty yourself. He'd done you another favor by allowing you to be the one who did him a favor. That tended to be the way it went. You weren't complaining about that particular dynamic. Hey, you getting one? Of course! Cool. With no time to lose and a plan in mind, you and Derek went to the old face painting stand with the new artist. Welcome, I've got a free spot if you see something you like. The painter was far less glamorous than Xavier, but no less friendly, or worse at their job if the new example photos were to be believed. They had their own flair in the strokes and the choice of color. You ushered Derek into the seat. It was his day, and for once, he was going to go first. After you. He appreciatively obliged, strutted ahead, and hopped up onto the raised chair. Derek had no embarrassment over being an adult at a face painting stall. It was nice to see. Oh, excellent. What can I get you? Derek took a polite glance at the offered styles on display, though didn't need any time to decide. How about a shooting star? Good choice. If the artist wasn't simply being polite, well, they might have been, but shouldn't if they were. Derek beamed like a star himself. Nothing could have fit better. Taking it from point to point before attaching a long tail, soon Derek's cheek was emblazoned with a bright star streaking across his face. But they hadn't finished yet. The stall had upped its production value since you were last there. The artist added a finishing touch of glitter to the centerpiece and painted sparkles over the basic tail.
Whoa.
That looks cool. It was a pleasant surprise for Derek as well. He'd been sure of what he was getting and ended up with more. Hopefully, that would be a pattern of things to come. Thank you. Derek shook the hand of the artisan vigorously before bounding out of the chair to show you. Check it out. Not bad, huh?
Man.
Honestly, I always thought the shooting star was the coolest. It has the most going on out of any of the options, but it's not exactly Nico's style. You deserve a gold star. Oh! He let out a snort while only barely stopping himself from slapping his freshly painted cheek. I hadn't thought about it like that, but I say that you're right. But... He twisted on his heels and took 2 steps backwards. Front of the stall was clear and Derek was in place to keep watch. Your turn. Cool. He walked under the large umbrella that covered the stall and settled into the paint-splattered sea. Hello, what can I get you? It was a difficult question, but after some serious soul-searching, he said, a football, a soccer ball, a basketball, a butterfly, a heart, another shooting star, a rainbow, a sun, a smiley face, a car, a skull, a spider, an alien face. Let's go with the rainbow this time. Another wonderful selection. For the second time, at least with you and Derek, it might have been their dozens for the day, the painter put their talents into action. You'd forgotten how tickly bristles felt being drawn over your skin. You wondered how you managed to stay still for this in the past, or how even younger kids did it. The excitement of having their face painted, I think. It might be because the process wasn't too long. You were in expert hands. While you'd been distracted by the unusual sensation, they had finished. Your rainbow was topped off with a dash of glitter and the piece was complete. Smiled into the mirror the artist angled at you. Thank you. It's my pleasure. When you rejoined Derek outside the stall, he admired the charming composition. He got a thumbs up from him.
Awesome.
A classic. You paid the artist for the work, just you, since you were covering Derek, and he certainly wasn't paying for you, and then was back into the thick of the park. Derek was on his way, and you were relieved to have him directing the course without a reminder to do so. Since we're here, we've got to ride the roller coaster. Then what are we waiting for? Come on! All right! Neutral thrill propelled you through the crowd, flying past the souvenir shops and food stands so fast you could imagine yourself already on the coaster. The line was wrapped around the whole base of the coaster, but neither of you intended to give up. You could be patient for your reward. Though patient didn't mean calm. Derek restlessly bounced from heel to toe and repeatedly clasped and unclasped his hands, sometimes shaking his finger out. His behavior was more appropriate for someone about to jump into a big game they'd been training all their life for. But Derek had already gone through that kind of experience for real, so it was fitting for him. The thick row of people filed forward at a gradual pace. Derek shot out, eager to chatter when he got to move. He held on to his high spirits the whole while, and eventually you reached the boarding platform. Finally, the suspense of waiting to be on the ride was replaced with the anticipation of the drop. You'd gotten a middle spot in the coaster, though with a bias towards the front. It was good with Derek, and that was good with you. Together you piled in for the ride and closed the safety bar over your laps. A check of all cars was performed as usual, and when the clear was given, the wheels cranked ahead. You pulled higher and higher to the peak of the man-made wood mountain, until, without warning, the coaster careened over the other side. Derek hollered loud enough to hear over the shouts of everyone else, plus the clattering car and your teeth clattering in your head. You zoomed through twists and turns, being jostled around like you were tossed into a tumble dryer. And then it was over. You jerked forward when the car's speed decreased significantly at the last leg. Once the car cranked into a crawl and rolled into the station, you headed across the exit on the other side, making sure not to leave anything behind. All the fellow riders went down the path in a group. Derek was out of breath and buzzing with energy. You were in a similar state. After ruffling his already completely tousled hair, Derek sighed happily. That was great. Yeah. You began to drift over the boards again, heading nowhere but encouraged forward by the tide of park-goers coming through. He grinned over at you, as sweet as a mouthful of cotton candy. What do you want to do next? Wait, no, what do I want to do next, right? You still get to pick. Yes, he remembered. Good boy. Derek and you joined in with the laughter filling the park. Force of habit. Don't worry, I can keep reminding you. It's Derek's Day. Derek's Day, huh? I like the sound of that. He cast his focus up to the sky. Derek traced the edge of his jaw using his thumb and pointer finger. It reminded you of the way Mr. Suarez would stroke his beard thoughtfully and respectably. Derek was missing the facial hair, but the effect was the same. What does Derek Suarez want to do? We've hit the roller coaster and face painting stall. I'm not huge on the refreshments here. Honestly, they've got bikes and scooters. You can do that almost anywhere. Top of that, time's running out before we have to leave, so... He'd been going somewhere and stopped himself. That was also a pattern of his. When Derek spoke again, it was quiet, wistful, more for himself than in conversation.
Well...
Probably shouldn't stall any longer. That's not responsible. What? I'll tell you this time. But, before I do, let's ride the Ferris wheel. Oh yeah, it'd be a big missed opportunity to leave without riding it.
Alright.
Let's go. Derek glanced around to get the lay of the land. You'd wandered far from the coaster and entirely lost touch with where you stood in the park. But your new target was a tall structure for miles around. There was no trouble in determining a path towards it. Together you made another crossing of the boardwalk. The line for the Ferris wheel wasn't as jam-packed as the first ride you'd stopped at. Far more guests could fit at a time. It was simply less of a draw to the high-energy guests attending that park. You couldn't get on immediately, but the wait wouldn't take long. Derek's attitude standing there was a stark contrast to how he behaved on the creeping crawl to the coaster. His feet were firm on the ground. A ride attendee got the door for both of you. That didn't mean you couldn't add your own touch of cordialness. Please, you first.
Thanks.
How kind. You promptly climbed in. You carefully got up the 2 steps into the car after. Derek sat on the right bench, the same side you picked the last time you were there. We're gonna sit next to him. Derek squished his shoulders up around the sides of his face in childlike excitement and welcomed you to the seat with a grin. Put out an OK sign for the attendant. Then the employee closed a tiny elevated room. You were fully encased inside. It muffled the raucousness so much you could believe the entire world had suddenly faded away. Squinting out the window showed that all was well. The car rocked forward and he watched as the ground grew further away. You and Derek were completely unreachable there. For the duration of the ride, it was only you and him. That was freeing in a way. Derek seemed to think so too, because it got him to talk without reservation. I know we didn't get to do all that much here. We're finishing up and the sun hasn't even started to set. But even still, this has been the best trip to the boardwalk I've had in years. He poked at a small chunk of glitter on his cheek that clumped together and stuck out from the rest.
You're seriously great.
I hope you know I really appreciate it. You're always looking out for me. I feel the same way about you. The Ferris wheel continued to go round on its set, unchanging path, always forward, never back. Even in the brightness of a summer day, a shadow fell over Derek's face.
Well...
You succeeded in making me happy. Is it alright to ask if you had fun too? Of course, any time with Derek is a good time. That's good to know. His gaze dropped and his voice was low, heavy with the weight of emotional strain.
Thank you.
Thanks to you, I finally got to feel like I did when I was a kid for a little while. That means a lot. It's what I've been chasing ever since I got here. The big park, all dark and empty, Derek's pain confession. The scene all flashed through your mind. His words rung out. How he felt he'd lost so much and could never get it back. Maybe that wasn't entirely true after all. The soft smile on his face was exactly the same as the boy you once knew. Hey, remember that time you stayed over at my place and we camped down in the living room? We talked about the future and our dreams. The Father's Day thing might have been more of a bombshell, but I haven't forgotten the rest of that adventure. Yeah, same. We had such grand plans a decade ago, huh?
Oh man.
Now we're here and I have no idea what I'm doing. Hey, Beth, it's Rudy. Derek pressed himself into the heavy metal wall behind the seat and slumped down it. Wonder what my 13-year-old self would have done if he'd called a psychic and they told him where his life would have actually gone. Maybe demand a refund? Come on, Derek. Everyone knows you're too polite to ask for your money back. So accurate. You're right. If I would have thought about it, I'd have made a great speech in my head about how it's only fair to not have to pay for a reading like that. Derek's voice faded out, replaced by the sound of his fingers tapping against the seat. One after another, they played a rapid beat like the fluttering of a heart.
This sucks.
Sucks that there's no way to actually know what's going to happen in the future, huh?
Forget it.
At least today was fun. A good break from having to be grown-ups. I wonder when we'll see each other again. Did appreciate that you had the chance to come for a short trip. Didn't stop you from already looking ahead to when you could be together during another time. Whenever you want. Or can, anyway. You mean it? Definitely.
Leave it to me.
It's my apartment, I'm an adult, and I can say that Jules Hunt is allowed to visit all the time. He declared it proudly, with a faux air of haughtiness. If his pitch had been a little higher, the statement would have been a fairly accurate imitation of Liz. It was all more than a little silly, but the smile growing on your face stopped short of becoming full. Derek's bold-faced confidence was only pretend. Regret remained hidden behind every smile. I'm not going to be too busy for you anymore. I figured out what my actual priorities are way later than I should have, but I did.
I swear.
Part of that is being someone you could actually count on again. So, my door is always open.
The truth is...
Since you've been here, I've finally started to see a future I want to have. I've thought about it more and more, and it keeps coming back to the same thing. I don't want to be this far away from you. That was it, all along. The entire time you'd been staying with him, and even before you'd actually arrived. Those were the words Derek had been holding back. He didn't restrain them any longer. I was hoping to be closer to you when I lived in the next city over. Being neighbors was my dream. I wasn't totally kidding about that. But I wasted all the years we had being at a manageable travel distance from each other. I pushed off facing you for real until I reached a perpetually moving goalpost. I regret that. I still do. I don't know if I'll ever stop pissing me off. Derek caught that his long-held anger began to carry him. He squeezed his eyes shut and forced a shaky, though steadying exhale out. That's not what matters, though. I can't redo the past. I've got to focus on what I can do. And what is that? I could move. I could live next to you now. The clawing darkness of the past faded under the shining hope of a better tomorrow. Why not, right? It's not as if I'd be canceling any amazing plans. I gave up everything before you got here. So this would be the best time for it. I don't have to renew my lease, and the career ideas I do have could come with me. I could start them somewhere else. Or hell, if you've been wanting to come back to this area for more than a vacation, I could keep the apartment and you could move in. I'd be up for either if you are. We could be there for each other day by day. For the first time, Derek had expressed the whole and honest truth of what he wanted for his life, for himself. It wasn't about his family or only for your sake. He wants to be a part of our lives. Hello, he's a keeper. But even then, Derek couldn't help pre-compromising his preferences. He doubted the appeal of his hopes to anyone other than himself.
Don't worry about that.
I get if you think it'd be overkill or you're still worried about how it'd work out. It wouldn't have to be forever. He winked, cheeky and familiar. I'm not asking you to marry me again. Maybe it lasts for only a year and then we'll have new plans. I'm gonna need time to figure out the long term either way.
So...
That's it. Derek's new plan. What do you think? Oh boy. Which one? I don't remember what I was doing. I think I've still been at college. Okay, I should have said that. Are you kidding? I'd kill to live in that apartment. It was obvious. As soon as you said it, you questioned why it took this long to realize you could simply be near each other if you wanted. In the next instant, you remembered why. Neither of you pictured the other feeling the same way. Imagine Derek was pursuing his sports dreams and never would have interrupted that. Saw himself as unworthy of others' acceptance until an abstract goal of success was attained. But those days were behind both of you. The answer you gave and the dazzling smile it gave Derek was proof of it.
Really?
You nodded with complete resolve. There wasn't any need for doubt. Really. Woo! His arm shot up as he whooped a victorious cheer. Fortunately, the Ferris wheel car wasn't built for that kind of celebration. His fist cracked directly against the metal ceiling of the cabin. Ack! Bill laughed heartily, shaking off his smarting knuckles. Nothing was going to bring him down. Started to ramble off moving logistics and preparations that need to be made. Informing the landlord that there'd be another occupant was paramount, but he was positive she wouldn't mind, and you'd be able to keep that key he'd given you from the start, of course. It was dry, grown-up responsibility stuff, yet it sparked more excitement and youth than any amusement park could have. Derek was able to rein in the frenzied babbling long enough to extend a hand towards you intently. You understood what he meant by that. Yeah, I mean, I would have either said Derek could move in with me or I'm gonna move in with Derek. But I picked moving in with Derek because then could still be close to their families, but have your own space. The place, the time of day, the terms, so much of the situation was entirely different from the first time Derek had made you an offer. But the feelings behind it remained the same. An earnest desire to not be separated. That is cool. Took hold of one another securely and shook.
It's a deal.
Yeah, deal. Wow. He slowly let go before staring down at his hand in wide-eyed disbelief, as if it wasn't his. But it was. Derek had taken his own life into that hand of his. He believed he wouldn't lose hold of it ever again. I actually did it. His fingers curled into his fist. They lifted his intense green eyes to your face. Derek had grown and he held himself back. He'd changed and he'd remained himself. He developed into an adult he should be proud of, and he was still the boy you met 10 years ago. It was all true at once, and it made you happier than you could say. I'm feeling better about the future already. Thanks, Jules. Derek had gained genuine confidence. He trusted his own decisions now that they were made to seek the best instead. Now that they were made to seek the best instead of to hide from the worst. Nothing in the world was more heartening than that. I am too, Derek. Derek's eyes finally stretched out his arms in front of him. He'd learned his lesson about moving them higher. Well, I might not really know what I'm doing with my own life, but I've at least got a nice apartment in a great location with a balcony and my favorite people all around. I'll take that as a win. You shook with the swaying of your personal cabin and of laughter, too. Derek snickered to himself, but clung to a piece of the prior seriousness. It is a relief, though. Feeling good about sticking around here is more progress than I had a few days ago. And 23 is not that old. There's plenty of time left to work it out. You don't need your whole life planned anyway.
Maybe.
You're usually right about stuff. For the first time in his waking hours, Derek was completely at peace with himself. Your spirits had flown straight to the moon like a pair of shooting stars, so physically you were still in the gently drifting cabin, and his position was on the decline. The wheel's turn continued to slow until it came to a full stop. Derek's joy was replaced with utter horror in an instant. He threw himself to the window and pressed his face against it, but Derek could only watch in stunned disbelief as the first of the cars unloaded lower down. The ride was coming to an end. When your cabin arrived at the bottom, you took your turn to dismount. The same attendant gestured towards the tall framed exit gate and thanked you for coming. Doing as instructed, you left the Ferris wheel behind you. Derek picked up his pace, bounding with each step to get ahead. He didn't go further into the crowd, instead he jumped right in front of you. You paused, foot in midair, at the sudden and quite solid obstacle in your path. His arms were folded, his eyes intent. "Sup, Jules?" "Sup to you." Derek grinned boldly as he curiously peered down at him. "Would you want to ride the Ferris wheel with me?" "What?" You blinked to put your foot down. As used as you were to repetition in relation to the Suarez family, that one caught you off guard. Whether this was Derek's impulsive side or a secret long-game planning side, you couldn't tell. Maybe a bit of both. "Yeah, what a surprise!" Derek chuckled self-consciously. The shock had to have been clear on your face. It didn't stop him. He rambled on and on without taking a breath. "But honestly, I know we just did that and had a whole big talk, but there was something else I planned on saying. I thought I'd be able to go over it all, then it went so fast, but I can't say it any other place even though it's important. The most important.
I swear.
If we can do this one more time, I'll never ask for anything again. Well, I'd ask you something, but it would be different, I swear." Then his entire face closed up and finally sucked in some air through his nose. Then his eyes opened. They were wide and pleading. Of course he'd have a puppy dog face. It was in Derek's genes. "If that's what you want, I'll do it." "Thank you. I'll tell you when we're there." A brand new promise lingered in your heart. You looped around the width of the Ferris wheel to get in line once again. When the line thinned and you reached the front, you got into another car. Derek took his usual seat on the bench set towards the right-hand side of the entrance, gestured a hand towards the left bench, asking you to sit across from him. "Okay, I think I know what's happening, but we'll play along." "It'd be nice if I could face you more easily," was his reasoning. This had to be serious if he didn't want to welcome you right by his side again. So you took a spot alone on the metal panel. "Whatever you want, Derek." Derek didn't fill the space with chatter as you were used to. Instead, he made use of his requested vantage point to watch you intently from across the small room as the rest of cars filled with guests, each having their own story that led them to the Ferris wheel that day. In a way, you and Derek were the only one of thousands, nothing special at all. The attendant had let you on the ride and hadn't even seemed to realize you'd been there minutes before. Oh, I'm sure that there have been visitors like that who go on the ride over and over and over again. But in another sense, you and him meant a great deal. You were both irreplaceable depending on who was looking. The way he watched you with unflinching focus, it was clearly apparent which view he held. The silence was all-encompassing, but the strength of his gaze kept your rapt attention. That was only once the Ferris wheel began its slow spin without interruption that Derek truly began what he'd set out to do. He placed his hands at his sides, shining his fingers across the bench for balance, and he leaned in towards you, physically showing how he was ready to open up.
You're seriously great.
Before anything, I want to thank you. Derek Day was awesome, and you're awesome for doing that. Come on. Derek was happy and bright, grinning as you always pictured him in your mind. It was difficult to imagine him as overly serious, even when you'd seen it in person seconds before. But it's not even just that. Today isn't the half of it. Doing chores and running errands, making me feel so much less shitty over how I quit. Excuse me. And can I also mention real quick how cool it was that you cared about me and what I was thinking instead of pointing out that I was irresponsible or wasted such a great opportunity? That was a big deal to me. But the smaller things matter too. You stayed up even later to help me when I absolutely had to put those groceries away right then. You insisted on putting together the game stuff so I could take it easy for a little. And you've always got to try to take the door opening move away from me. He laughed without reservation. Talking about you had a way of bringing out his boyish enthusiasm. Then on top of all of that, you're good to my family too, even when we get dramatic and have our issues. They are a major part of my life, always will be, so seeing how you get along with them is, well, let's say it tips the scales for this even more. A special something danced inside his bright green eyes. It was as if he just realized himself for the first time what he was actually doing.
Well...
I don't want to leave anything out, but I should get to the point. I'd die of embarrassment if I ran out of time again. Derek's wink made you crack a smile. He had a way of bringing out a pure joy in you, too. But his expression soon shifted. Derek put his game face on. It's gotta be now. His voice was low, dangerously close to inaudible. You didn't want to miss any of it. Come on.
The truth is...
My dream hasn't changed. My actual dream. Not the dream of being the best at some sport so I didn't feel like a failure. I mean the one I told you about right here, almost 10 years ago. That evening came back to you in an instant. It was the first time you'd rode this Ferris wheel. You had a very similar view then. Derek had been right where he's at now. He's so much smaller and with his baby brother asleep in his lap. The sunlight had been fading, the shadows pressed in around you, and Derek whispered his hidden hope while you were almost all alone. Picturing that scene, reliving the words he'd said. It got your heart thumping hard and your stomach dipped. Were you on the Ferris wheel again or the roller coaster? The sensation made more sense for the latter. Fuck, and I don't remember what Derek said. Derek had no idea what was going on with your thoughts, or if he did, he wasn't letting it psych him out. He was someone who did what he set his mind to, and his determination was resolute. That's always been what I really wanted, even when I was pretending it wasn't. I still want someone on my side, who's there for me as much as I'm there for them. Right, and that's what we've been doing. Oh boy, I think I know where this is going. Partner in life. You told me back then I had that in you, and I couldn't believe it, literally. Admitting that was the only shake in his single-minded declaration. He had to pause and offer an apologetic smile. I honestly didn't think it could be true. It was nice to hear, but I wasn't going to hold you to it. Which was extremely dumb, because you were the person I was thinking about the entire time I was saying it. Yes. Derek's hands flew to the sides of his head and gripped it. He wanted to shake himself for that. That's why I told you and not somebody else. The muscles in his legs tensed as he pressed his sneakers heavily against the immovable floor. There was nowhere to go, and that was the only reason he stayed in his seat. So instead, he used the energy to pull his radiating emotions into a single point and to put that in words. I couldn't admit what I felt then, or even hope you felt it too, but not anymore. So, for once and for all, I'm gonna say what I've always thought. Derek's premeditated positioning came into full effect as he stared you down, straight on.
I love you.
Yes! 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 I want us to be on a team, to face problems together. Not because there was no one else, but because there is no one else. There is a difference. And you can do with that what you want. Then Derek let out a sigh and slumped in his seat. How he'd react, he didn't know, but he'd already accomplished something for himself simply by having the courage to tell you. We're gonna kiss him! The distance wasn't needed anymore. You broke the cardinal rule of theme parks. Don't get up from your seat while the ride is in motion. Your feet were unsteady in the dangling cabin, but your nerves were even. Took a couple hunched over semi-wobbling steps, you dropped onto Derek, landing your lips against him. His skin heated up with tingling goosebumps. You pushed yourself off and glanced down at him after a wonderful moment together. He managed to help you into an actual seat on the bench, embracing you in the process.
Are you serious?
Alright, so that definitely means what I think it means. Derek spoke with incredulous awe. As obvious as it was to both of you, it didn't seem possible. The feelings you've come to know has sparked more alive in you than ever before. I love you too. Those words froze Derek solid. He stopped breathing. He didn't blink, and the stasis lasted long enough for you to worry over his oxygen levels. His face might have been blue under all that red in his cheeks. A deep red through a crooked grin was what finally broke his rock-solid features.
Oh, man.
An unexpected perk of picking this spot is that I can't get up and sprint around for 10 minutes. That wouldn't have been a great reaction, but probably exactly what I would have done if I could. I could go for a run myself right about now. You let out a shaking breath, completing the process of breathing only once over an entire minute. Well, since a nice jog around the boardwalk is out of the equation, I'll have to do something else. His eyes were alight. For example, I could kiss you. Not exactly. He took your hands into his without hesitation. You gripped him back and leaned closer. He met you halfway. Your lips touched, first slightly, then with more confidence. His were pulled up at the ends the entire time. The first time you'd ever kissed Derek was when you were barely teenagers, hanging out at the old park, and making plans for the future as well as you could then, by making the backup seal. The second was only a minute ago, your way to once again tell Derek that you wanted to be his and for him to be yours. Both were important, but this one, a reciprocal kiss born of mutual affection, was the very best of them. However, you had a feeling there'd be many chances to outdo it in the days, weeks, and years to come. In the thrill of the moment, Derek's excitement got the better of him. His legs kicked up and he smacked his heels down against the bottom panel of the seat. A clattering sound vibrated in the tiny metal room, and it reminded you of the precariousness of your position. Derek got the same wake-up call. You were still in the middle of a Ferris wheel ride, and bouncing off the walls wouldn't be the best plan.
Whoa!
He pulled your mouths apart, keeping you squeezed against his chest, and glanced around wide-eyed to check the situation. Then he giggled joyfully, no less carefree. I take it back. This wasn't a convenient place for a confession at all. If I really was as good at preparing as I claimed, I'd have picked somewhere that wouldn't rock if you moved around. And one that didn't have a 10-minute time limit. You both laughed, and Derek shook his head at the whole thing. Oh well, it was unavoidable. But I like that, in a way, this is full circle. It's very true. It's always full circle. But when you have on the Ferris wheel was when you first had an inkling that Derek cared about you. That he was talking about you when he was talking about having someone be there for him. And so it makes sense that when you're on the Ferris wheel again, he does the same thing. Except this time he makes it clear that he is talking about you. How come? The cabin you were in was once again looked over up and down, but Derek's motivation was different. He wasn't checking for damage or to see if he was about to knock you both out of the sky. He was nostalgically drinking in the scene he'd found himself in. Honestly, it's pretty embarrassing, but I didn't want to ask you out any place other than here. Or, really, I didn't think I'd have the fortitude in a different location. It's a pretty scenic, right?
Well...
And mainly, it's a place where I started seriously imagining my future to be with you. Nico was there, so I couldn't ask if you liked someone or if you wanted to get married in the future, if we're still single, of course. I ended up doing that in the park a little later. But it was here when it happened in my head. I promised myself that if the two of us ever ended up truly alone in a Ferris wheel, I'd spit it out before the ride was over. It was a secret deal I made with myself, a backup to the backup. That never happened until now, partly because going out to the boardwalk isn't exactly practical. It's even further away than the water park, so it never came up. The other half of it is because I was avoiding this exact set of circumstances. I avoided all Ferris wheels everywhere. If it came to this, I'd have to break my vow, or actually do it.
Oops.
And the joke here is, after all that, I still didn't get to it the first time. We had to go around twice. Humor softened into endearment, and chuckles faded into gentle whispers. But we made it. Through all the years and all the miles between us, we got back here. I think that counts for something. It's a beautiful sentiment. Though, of course, he was Derek Suarez, so his childish spirit couldn't stay quiet for long.
Nice.
And I did do it, and now we're together. Woo!
Wait.
There's one final thing we should probably talk about, or talk about again, really. Do you want to stay in the place you have for now? Would be moving too fast now we're in a different kind of relationship than we were a few minutes ago when that was decided? Let me double check the question. I got distracted by the responses. I still want to do it. I want to be close to you.
I got you.
We've got a deal again, or still, whatever. We've got it. They wasted too much time as it is. Well, Derek has more than you, but still. Thanks, Derek. You shifted and snuggled to get into the angle that optimized closeness and comfort. Derek linked his restless legs with yours to keep them content with something other than wild bucking. The freshly made couple enjoyed the comfort of the other's presence in bliss, though not for long. The ride once again came to its end, with much too fast for Derek's taste. He sighed with great tragedy as the first of the passengers began to dismount lower on the wheel. You were of the same mind. Staying on Cloud 9 with Derek for many more revolutions would have been perfectly welcome. When your car was at the bottom, you and Derek returned to Earth side by side as you had left it. However, nothing was the same. The world was an entirely different place now. Free from the metal cage that kept him restrained, Derek leapt up and high-fived the tall decorative gate over the exit. Merrymaking wasn't entirely out of place there, but it was still so brazen it made some guests stare. He didn't care. How could he? His future had changed in an instant. The dream that belonged to you both had come true. Derek didn't know what to do with himself. Until suddenly he used the same hand that hit that gate to clap across his own forehead. Oh, shit, it's getting late. The first ride was supposed to be the final stop. We've still got the whole drive back.
Man.
I swear, I instantly stopped being a responsible adult whenever you're involved. It's okay. I'm glad you asked me to ride again. It makes me happy too. But we should head out. I can't make a miss saying goodbye to everyone else just for me. Together you bounded across the boardwalk last time. Knowing Derek wouldn't fall out of your reach when it was time for you to go carried you ahead fearlessly. Soon you were packed into Derek's car and on the long trip home to truly your home after having made the most of the afternoon you got. On the long drive back from the park, there were moments of conversation and of quiet, of reminiscing about the past and imaginations of the future. Of course, the now upcoming move was a major source of discussion. Let's tell everyone, because they're probably going to want to help. The decision had been made, so there was no reason to hide it. Sitting in the passenger seat over those hours sometimes felt as if you hadn't left that Ferris wheel cabin in the sky. The atmosphere of Derek's car had a similar way about it that made you feel disconnected from the rest of the world. No one else... Sorry, I got distracted. No one else could reach you or him, and you could say anything there. But there was a major difference. The peace and comfortable stasis was only an illusion. You weren't on the slow, unchanging path of that park ride. Derek was speeding down a California highway in a race against time. There was a party at the end of the road, and Derek was never one to be late. When he finally pulled in the apartment complex's parking lot, the car went silent. It's like the relay was over, and the frantic whir and rush had to be carried on with your own flesh and bones. Not a moment was wasted snatching up the few belongings he brought along and pushing it towards the building. He passed no one in the halls. Derek had his key in hand already, prepared to unlock the door, and when that was swung open, he saw the living room you'd grown so accustomed to empty. The space was untouched since you'd left early that morning, at least as far as you could remember, but Derek didn't celebrate an early victory. He put a finger to his lips and made a show of checking behind the couch and around the kitchen counter, just to make certain his family hadn't used their spare keys to prepare another surprise. He trailed behind Derek, step for step, as he dramatically sculpts about his own house. He checked around a corner, and you tried to get a look over his broad shoulders to see, too. Nicholas and Liz could absolutely not be trusted. If they came by the apartment and found you and Derek gone, they'd almost certainly play the same joke twice. However, they hadn't gotten that chance. Derek stood tall and concluded his inspection with that revelation. "We've done it! No one is here. We spent the whole day out and still beat them." With a cheer, he fully relished the victory now that it was truly assured.
Man,
The boardwalk finally telling Jules what it actually felt, being on time and getting to see the family before the day's over. Things really are all going my way, huh? It's perfect. Derek saying the day was perfect made it so for you. After a lifetime of compromises and sacrifices, you were proud to see him get exactly what he wanted. And it was more than a little thrilling that a significant part of what he wanted was you. I feel the same way. It couldn't have gone better. Yeah. His voice was gentle and his gaze was soft with affection. But as Derek came nearer to you, the warmth shot up to sultry. With a single spark, it would burst.
you're seriously great.
Sure, it's only been a few hours, but you're a great partner. I hope. Alright, sorry about that. For some reason my computer decided to randomly restart. But I'm back, and I had to replay basically everything since the start of the stream because I hadn't saved it. Oi! But I am determined to finish this today. I will put the two videos together on my computer so that I can upload it as one video. So yeah, sorry about that. I don't know why my computer did that to me. Okay, so I know that I already picked this, and I'm pretty sure I made all the same choices as before. But, so... I'm so glad we got to do this. Yeah. His voice was gentle and his gaze was soft with affection. But as Derek came near to you, the warmth shot up to sultry. With a single spark, it would burst.
You're seriously great.
So, yeah, I know that the last little bit is a repeat. My apologies. I wanted to make sure that I didn't skip anything. Sure, it's only been a few hours, but you're a great partner, I hope you know. Liz had been so certain none of the Suarez men could woo anyone. She would have had to eat those words if she ever saw Derek truly put his mind to it. My pleasure. In fact, I'd be happy to do more. Billy tried to flirt back a little with how strong he was coming on, yet the reply made his lips squirt. He doubted his ears and nearly lost his composure. What he didn't do was quit. He didn't tell himself or you he was wrong or there was a mistake either. Instead, Derek held up his coy smile with the confidence he'd managed to store away for emergencies, indulged in further romantic pursuits.
Well...
Honestly, right now, all I really want is to be alone with you. Once again, he closed in on you, this time until you were near enough that your noses almost touched. It's pretty convenient we've got the place to ourselves for a minute, huh? Does this mean I can visit your bedroom? Derek had played it very cool, but in that instant he lit right up, a glow from head to toe. Oh, definitely. This is the right timing for that final piece of the tour. Perfect. There's his fingers through yours and gripped tight. The hand was steady and hot. There wasn't a trace of pre-game jitters, only excitement. Okay, but before anything else, maybe I should wipe this shooting star off my face? He snorted a laugh like you were your mom. That was not exactly a romantic thing to bring up now. However, it was fittingly practical and Derek-esque. No, leave it. It's cute.
What?
Really? Really? Huh, you say so. And you're keeping the rainbow, I'm betting. Yes. In that case, as we were, you left the main area of the apartment behind to hide away together in the very back corner. The neat and simple room was very Derek. Not that you paid it much attention. You hadn't come to see if the carpet smashed the drapes. Well... that's a euphemism for something else entirely. He slipped both his arms under yours, wrapping you up in him. Absolutely ready to pounce on the man. Bundle nerves by excitement went on the shyness. Sliding a hand down to the bottom of your spine, Derek kept you steady as he led both of you onto the edge of his bed. He sat comfortably on the mattress with you straddling his lap. Neither of you had any plans of untangling from each other. The position on your knees had you towering over Derek even more than usual. Derek glanced up at you through lidded eyes. A coy smile played about his face. He might have jokingly protested others eclipsing his height in the past, but he definitely wasn't complaining about the current arrangement. It suited him exactly right. After you? Or would I go first? Your shaking fingers grasped at his shirt. Your face felt 1,000,000 degrees. He was polite even then, but it was killing you. Leaned in, not needing to hear more. You were drawn closer by the light inside his eyes. Derek was more fired up than you'd ever seen him. We're gonna kiss him. He reached down until your faces could meet. As you touched your lips to his, Derek kissed you back. Tentative but lingering, just making sure it was right, that it was real. You were smiling at each other when it ended. There was no mistake here. Only two people whose wants sung the same song. He kissed you next. He squeezed your thigh. You raised your hands to his short hair. Regardless of how spiky it always looked, strands were nothing but silky soft against your fingers. The intensity deepened. You pressed and folded your lips against each other in a much more longing kiss. You'd imagine there were even better kisses to come than the one in the Ferris wheel, but you were pleasantly surprised to have it happen so soon. You gasped for breath when you and him finally broke apart. Derek could only speak in a hoarse whisper. You're really great. He chuckled against his skin. Derek's vocabulary for praise rarely extended past words he could say to any guy, gal, or pal, but it was only with you when his voice was so heart-achingly adoring. We're gonna read it. Yeah. Managed to get around the folds of Derek's thick, sleeveless hoodie, but before you even grazed the body underneath, Derek was leaning away. I'm sorry. Are you alright?
Forget it.
No, wait. Yes. Forget it. I'm sorry. It's all good. I was just thinking I could help you with that if you want. He took hold of his own signature red top and lifted it enough to expose a thin line of skin. He stopped there to check your expression. Oh. How about you let me help you help me?
Yeah.
Perfect. You both intently tugged at Derek's unnecessary bit of fabric. He got it over his head and he let the shirt pass you onto the floor. There we go. Derek rested back against the palms of his hands, totally satisfied and leaving his front fully exposed. He held no shyness about going shirtless in front of you. In fact, you were positive he'd been aching for a chance to do exactly that. It would have been more improper to draw attention to himself at the public water park. This was his comeback. As you were. Not yet. You got the picture immediately. Words were not an option in the moment. However, he rallied to your aid as you had done for him. You twisted and shimmied in Derek's lap in your effort to undress. But Derek was determined and had a much better angle to access the top. Together you managed to slip out of it. Derek let it limply fall to the ground. He remained speechless. Now that's everything. You resumed the original plan and freely explored Derek's abs and pecs and everything else he'd put out on a silver platter for you. Meanwhile, Derek's focus had zeroed in on your own chest. He wasn't forcing his eyes away like when you wore a swimsuit. Ogling was allowed, and Derek learned there were even better possibilities out there than getting to show off himself.
I swear.
Damn, this is Derek's day. Yeah. Playfully, you trailed tiny kisses down his neck and continued all the way to the end of his broad shoulder. You had plenty of real estate available to you, after all. Derek enjoyed your indulgence as much as you did, even more, a little too much. You were both so distracted, neither of you realized what was coming when he dropped his head in a happy sigh till his chin squished you into his shoulder blade. Oof. I'm sorry. He snapped it right back up, but still pulled you off of him to check your state. Are you okay? He yelped as soon as your teeth took hold of the sensitive area. You win! Or it's even now? Good.
Are you sure?
So you're really alright? Yes, I really mean it. Derek squeezed you tight in a hug, careful with where his face went, and laughed wholeheartedly. Embraced him in return, overflowing with affection for your excessively considerate boyfriend. Okay. Family's coming, we can't get down and dirty, so that was the biggest thrill you'd had, and you weren't sure when, and you'd just gone to an amusement park earlier that day. You needed to relax. Aiming for more of a sit over a straddle, you slid your legs over to the side and twisted onto your butt. Derek held his arms in place around you, which stopped you from falling as you got situated. Thanks. Flushed in content, you rested your cheek against Derek's hair. It was soft, even though it always looked spiky.
You're welcome.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Derek traced his fingers down the length of your spine. His burning touch had changed to a soothing palm. You welcomed it, snuggling closer. For once, Derek didn't attempt to move right into a new conversation. His hands were full going up and down your back. That was okay with you. In a dreamy haze, you gladly listened to only the sound of his heart and his slow breaths. And then the doorbell rang. Ah! Derek blinked wide, blurry eyes. That was definitely the door's buzzer, but you could have fooled him into thinking it was an alarm clock waking him from a fantasy.
This sucks.
Man, it's been, 5 minutes since we were preparing, and I already lost track of the party thinking that we were expecting guests. Well, this time I can forgive myself for the slip-up. That was a hell of a distraction. I forgot we even had feelings the second you started flirting. Derek let out a bark of laughter, throwing his head back, before promptly burying his face against you. He mumbled through a grin into the nape of your neck. Each word has his lips dragged against your skin. Is it too late to cancel? Even though he was joking, it was still tempting, for both of you, but it couldn't be done. Mastering his years of experience being the responsible one, Derek hefted you and him onto your feet. It was time to go. You hunted down your abandoned clothes and put them back on. Mercifully, they still looked presentable enough, despite what you'd done to them.
Come on.
With a refreshed pep in your steps, you and Derek said goodbye to your dreamland and returned to the world of the living, which took the form of Derek's living room. But the expectant smile that had been on Derek's face evened out into a bemused line. His brain was working, and then his mouth dropped open in a terrible realization.
Wait.
Didn't I invite them over for dinner? We don't have time to make food. We could set up snacks, but what kind of dinner party is that? I said that so we'd have as much time as possible at the park. I wasn't considering that meant we'd actually need a dinner. Shoot, we don't even have enough food in the house for how many people are coming. We can make this work. Yeah, exactly. It's fine. I've got an idea. We're gonna get takeout. How about pizza and the other stuff places that like that have salads, wings, and so on? I'd have that.
Awesome.
Cool. He held out a satisfied thumbs up. I better actually answer the door. He stuck a finger forward in a demonstration of where he was headed, then strolled over. But his hand froze on the doorknob. Oh, damn. Then he flung it up to slap across his face.
Oh, man.
The family can't see this? Oh, duh. Keeping it was not the best idea. The boardwalk trip was meant to be a secret, and Derek now strolled along to greet his or your family with his sparkling shooting star blazoned across one's teeth. You weren't any better with the rainbow across your face. Can't believe I almost missed it, even though I had already caught that. Is there anything else I forgot today? Maybe? I might have forgotten too. There. Derek was thinking fast then. He left the door closed, but shouted to the other side. Be there in a minute! Okay. You could make out Mrs. Suarez's voice resonating through the wall. But it's Derek's family come first. Well, they're closer, I think. Derek silently sidestepped away from the entrance, tiptoeing over the carpet until he was certain he wouldn't be overheard. He whispered to you, "Let's go. We don't want them to see something they shouldn't." That was spoken like a true criminal. Bolted from the living room, counting on you to follow. He did. Derek went to the master bathroom and you the guest one. He twisted the sink on and salted the rainbow with hot water and a pale yellow hand towel until it was erased from existence. You wiped down the area as best you could, then threw the towel into the cabinet under the sink to keep it away from prying eyes. It was stained all over, the only evidence of your and Derek's deed. With the job done, you hastily returned to the living room. Derek came up right behind you. At the threshold, he bent over, leaning against his knees and settled his heavy breathing. Then Derek bounded back up and finally answered the door, seeming as upbeat and unflappable as ever.
Hey!
Welcome! With such dramatic and complete recovery, you had to wonder if it was a trained skill. There might have been many days where Derek frantically put out fires and his own fluster before presenting himself before you with a big smile. Thank you! The whole Suarez family was there, crowding the narrow space with smiles on their faces. Your own family member did not have the same kind of cheer. Her lips were curved. They were here first. He took so long answering, I found them standing around waiting. Sorry about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was that about?
It's...
Well, the real secret of the day was your outing at the boardwalk, but a deep red over his cheeks exposed that it was a different trip that came to Derek's mind. Jules and I were just going over the game plan. Oh, what is the plan? We're gonna get pizza. My treat.
Woo!
Someone's fine with that. Thank you, my wonderful son. That's very thoughtful of you. Works for me. Derek's last-minute solution had gotten full marks, speaking with the self-satisfaction of a man who winged a final exam so fast, Derek pretended this had gone as he'd intended all along.
I figured.
I thought you might feel that way about it. That's not over until everyone is here. Jules says Mrs. and Mrs. Hunt and Mr. Holden are going to show up soon. Murmurs of understanding circulated as Drew filed into the apartment. Derek took on the role of host with vigor and encouraged his guests to get comfortable. Accepted the hospitality, and seats were taken all around.
Well,
How's your day been? Yeah, what were you up to? Mrs. Suarez's entirely pleasant tone was followed up by the openly nosy inquiry from Nicholas. However, neither had forgotten the curious hold-up at the door. We had a great afternoon and talked about some very important things. Isn't that right, Jules? As usual, when he ended up in awkward positions, Derek took the strategy of technically not lying, but leaving out crucial details. Right. That's nice. Mrs. Suarez didn't mind not getting the real answer that she knew existed. She always did. Nicholas shrugged. He wanted more, but was mature enough not to demand it. I'm definitely glad I waited to finish this. Soon another sharp ring of the doorbell came. You and your sister perked up the most at that sound. It had to be your parents. Liz disregarded the fact that this is not her apartment and headed straight over to answer the door. You headed that way with her. Liz tugged the handle in there. On the other side were the soft faces of your sweet mothers and the more sharply featured but no less kind Mr. Holden. Many hellos and good to see yous were said in succession as the Hunt family joined with the Suarez clan and Derek's living room. It's a real party now. Not yet. There's still one thing missing. Let's talk toppings. Derek took a page out of his mother's black book and offered an explanation to the newcomers who had to have wondered.
What do you think?
We're getting pizza, if that's cool with you. Yum! That is fine, sweetie. No complaints here.
Nice.
Perfect. With the size of a crowd, I'd say we should get 3 large pizzas. Friendly rounds, suggestions, and debates over the most ideal topping splits commenced. More than one person wanted meat and veggie supreme. The Suarez family's parents both loved that one, and it had grown on their sons as they grew. Most agreed that having at least a couple simple options made sense, and Derek declared that he'd get his favorite, chicken barbecue, since he was the one making the order and couldn't be stopped. No one else in the group had any intention of ruining that for Derek. It was incredible to see him decide on something purely for himself. Yes! That's how the plan of 1 full meat and veggie supreme pizza, half cheese, half pepperoni pizza, and a half a pizza chicken barbecue was determined. Half cheese, half pepperoni, that's what me and my best friend did. Because he doesn't like toppings on his pizza, and I need more than cheese on my pizza. Just cheese is too much. Oh boy. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So we're gonna leave this up to the dice. I know I haven't been rolling dice, but it's just I've been going with my gut. Here we go. But yeah. So yeah. 8. An Alfredo side. Me too. The rest of the room accepted your idea as well. And get something besides pizza. Garlic bread. I love garlic bread. Salad. One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Cup of lemonade. And that was all. This sees you openly in front of all the parents for making good use of this being Derek's treat, and Nicholas, of all people, felt self-assured enough to joke about you being a spoiled youngest kid. That was hilarious coming from him, though the most impactful blow you got came from Derek himself when he gladly owned up to the idea that he'd spoil you when you wanted him to. And to top it all off, Nico and Jorge were both emboldened by your special request. Each of the younger Suarez boys asked their big brother for a soda, root beer for Jorge, and orange for Nicholas. Derek gladly accepted the request. After it was all said and done, Derek made the call to the local pizza place he had it arranged for delivery. Glanced over the attendees once he finished that task.
Oh, yeah.
We've got some time to kill. Can I get anybody a drink? That goes for you, for you're already getting something to. You don't have to wait to hydrate. What a kind host. Some requests were made for water and seats were taken to settle in for the wait. You got comfortable on a couch yourself. Derek collected 2 armfuls of water bottles. He went around the room passing drinks out to each person, even those who didn't ask for one. Seeing staying refreshed was not an option after all. It was an order. You and the others near the coffee table got served first, then he went around the dining table to catch the ones hanging out there. He was busy in another section of the apartment. That's what you knew from the last time you caught sight of Derek from your position. And that's why a jolt went through your entire body when a low voice tickled your ear. Jules? You creakily turned your rigid neck to glance behind you. Derek was there, resting his arms across the top edge of the couch. He had swung back around to you while you weren't looking. As you processed the situation, Derek grinned cheerily, unapologetic about the shock his move gave you. Soft thump could be heard in the air. It wasn't your heart, though it might have been. You guessed on the other side of the couch what he was tapping his heels together.
So?
I just wanted to ask if we were keeping us a secret. You didn't have to tell you what that meant. No, we shouldn't, and this would be a good chance to talk about it. Our families are both here. Besides, they could tell something is going on already, considering the cozy position you've taken and the secret conversation we're having right in front of them. Good point. He pushed off the couch to his full height, though continued to grip the off-white fabric beside the backside of his couch.
Well...
A new patting sound could be heard. Derek needed an outlet for his building excitement and found it through drumming his fingers against the cushions. While we're all together, Jules and I have got to tell you all something. Ah, you're in a relationship.
Really?
Really now? Dad!
Is that wrong?
What, is that wrong? Were we not aware of what Derek felt about Jules? Mrs. Suarez groaned loudly and hid her face in the palms of her hands. Jorge put his hands on his hips, giving his dad a hard look. Your own parents were too sympathetic to their child's predicament to comment or laugh, but they were clearly dying to. I love it. It took the wind out of her sails, why don't you? Maybe, maybe not. We have no idea. Don't steal their thunder before they've said anything. He's right, Gregorio. Let them talk. Mr. Suarez stroked his beard thoughtfully. Ooh, sorry, kids.
Go on.
Derek, please keep going. What did you want to say?
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes. Forget I said a word. My lips are sealed. I can't stop grinning. Derek shot you a look that was both apologetic and encouraging. He turned back to the waiting eyes of his family and scratched his cheek. Sorry, I dropped something. Way to spoil it. I'm torn between these two. Let's go with this one. Teasingly, you wrinkled your nose before laughing. It's actually pretty hilarious. We're that predictable. Derek proudly beamed in front of the delighted crowd. That's
You've
right,
got it.
we're a couple. The parents were instantly elated by that news. Mrs. Suarez started clapping and knocked a shoulder into her husband's side.
Very good.
I hope that was going to be the news. This is amazing and quite a surprise, too. Sure. Mom bent forward with a chuckle and loudly snorted. Life is full of surprises, but most of them aren't as good as this one. Ma hummed nostalgically. She reached over and threaded her fingers together with Mom's.
Yes.
I'm grateful Jules could find happiness with such a gentleman in the end. Jules is an excellent kid. I know for a fact that Derek is a great guy. I'm sure things are going to work out for you, too. Jorge slowly shook his head off to the side. His crooked smile grew.
That makes sense.
You two together. It just makes sense. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
This means everything to me. I'm glad my boyfriend comes with good in-laws. Placing a hand over her heart, Mrs. Suarez glanced at her husband. He matched her tender smile. We're grateful to have you. We couldn't have dreamed of someone better suited for our Derek. Derek rubbed the back of his neck out of embarrassment, but you caught him peek at you still. He wondered how he'd won the romance lottery. His boldest breast smirk hadn't left Liz's face, as to be expected from your big sister. Well, props to you, Suarez, coming up from behind. I thought you'd lost your painfully long moment when you never said anything about crushing on Jules for several years and then moved away. Her jab hit the mark, making Derek shudder one eye. His characteristic grin survived the strike. I fumbled it more than once, I can admit that, but I did it now, and a win is a win.
All right.
Wow, more props. Liz couldn't completely remove the wryness that was natural to her face, but when she looked at you again, her eyes were soft. I'm so happy for you, both of you. I cannot possibly how romancing Mr. Let me do that for you over here could have blown up in your face. Could blow up in your face. Liz's encouragement was a huge deal to you, but the moment wasn't complete. Nicholas had been the only one in the crowd with nothing to say for the entire event. That was strikingly uncharacteristic for the wild child. And his face was neutral. That absence of happiness worried you as much as sadness or anger would have. Maybe more. Nicholas simply not caring seemed worse than him being upset. But you didn't need to doubt for long. In the end, he smiled. The look wasn't forced or for manner's sake. It reached his deep brown eyes. Nico's story about the night of the summer soiree came back to you. He knew what was coming and prepared himself for this exact moment. Now that it was here, he was happy for Derek and for you. You were so grateful. Your whole family, Suarez, Hunt, and Holden, could agree that you and Derek ought to be happy and that you should be happy together. And Derek was flushed with confidence after how received the announcement was. He was invincible. There was nothing to fear, so he steamrolled ahead. There's actually more major news. At that point, he cut himself off. As excited as he was, Derek managed to hold his tongue, sent a searching glance your way before saying any more. It's understandable why Derek was so pumped. He'd been busy and had 2 life-changing decisions made in a single afternoon away. Your loved ones heard about your relationship, next they need to learn about the move. You can tell them.
I got you.
Got you. Turned to the crowd with every eye on him. Derek came right out with it. Jules and I realized that things have been great the way they are and decided that they should move in here for keeps. We're going to be roomies. The crowd gasped, then went quiet, but not for lack of feeling. Emotion was palpable, bubbling inside a shell of self-restraint. The first to express the thoughts of the majority was Ma. You know we wouldn't want you to live your lives for our sakes, but I have to admit that I'm so glad you're going to be that close. Agreed, there's no denying that this is exciting. Hey, we're practically neighbors again. That's good with me. Mrs. Suarez and Mr. Suarez shared similar sentiments as your parents, and so did their sons.
That's great.
It's a smart plan for you two, I think, and it's made a lot of other people happy. Hooray! Very nice. I don't mind having you around more. He doesn't mind. He was trying to act like a grown-up, but that gracious statement didn't do much to hide the thrill coming out of his every pore.
Yeah.
This is great. There's so many things we weren't able to do on this trip, and now we'll be able to do anytime. Nicholas played down his true feelings while Jorge wore them openly. The oldest brother had to chuckle over the reversal. It was amazing and relieving to be welcomed home. You were more certain of your choice than ever. The wholesomeness of the moment wouldn't have been complete if it was only sweet. Liz cut in with a dose of snark that made the taste perfectly right.
Seriously?
Sheesh. After 10 years of no progress, you're going at light speed now. And she wasn't wrong. He thought the exact same thing. Well, we were just throwing up all our momentum for the right time. Now we've got the means to move full speed ahead. Laughter and lighthearted conversation continued within the walls of the apartment. Everyone was ready to pitch in with the move and had suggestions to offer, and then everything was put on hold when for the 3rd time the doorbell rang. Dinner's here! Suarez voice. Nicholas made a beeline to the door, his 2 older brothers at his heels. They gathered all the spoils from the delivery driver, gave a polite thanks, and promptly closed the apartment up again. Jorge and Nicholas peered into the semi-open lids to figure out which drink was theirs, and Derek especially handed you the stuff you got for yourself. The feast was laid out on the counter, savory, steamy, and very cheesy. Derek stood between the guests and the meal to make a declaration.
All right.
Everyone in my house, instead of the youngest going first, the oldest do.
Good.
Ah, yes, respect our elders. How kind. I can't believe I'm considered an elder. How did I get so old? Mom and Ma offered comfort and condolences. They'd been members of that club for many a year. All the grown-ups filed through as a big group. At that point in their lives, determining who was truly the oldest of the old wasn't worth the trouble. When they picked over the cream of the crop, Liz made a clean sweep of all on her own. You and Derek went together next, followed by Jorge. Finally, Nicholas's turn came. His mouth was hooked in an amused bend. Being last was a novelty, and he took his sweet time picking up the slices he wanted. Why not? He wasn't holding anyone up. Eventually, Nicholas selected his dinner, and the chairs around the apartment were filled with happy guests whose plates were equally full. It was a relief to see your and Derek's big announcement hadn't impacted anyone's appetite. Good food and pleasant conversation were enjoyed at Casa Derek. Nico went back to the boxes for seconds and thirds without needing anyone's permission. After eating, Jorge moved from the table to chat with Liz away from the parents. Nicholas abandoned the last bites of his 5th piece of pizza to scurry after his big brother. Derek stuck next to you as a rule, but there were cases when exception was needed. Well, this is your party, and Liz's sort of. I won't hog you. You should get to see everyone who's here to see you. I'll be around. It was true. The two families had gathered for you and your sister on the final day of your trips. It was trips. Come on. Why are you not going? Come on. On your end, the event had turned into more of a welcome party than a farewell, but Liz was still leaving, and you didn't know for sure when you would be able to actually move. The time you had right now wasn't to be missed. Yeah, I will. Thanks. Derek took a step back with a nod and a wave. He at least was someone you'd certainly see again soon. Let's talk to Derek's parents. Derek's parents were contentedly sitting together on the couch watching. The scene of their children and friends gathered together in one place was a rare joy. But when you approached, Mr. Suarez perked up from his peaceful reverie. He squished against the missus, patting the free spot on the cushion. Mrs. Suarez had to physically support her husband in the invitation by catching his shoulder, otherwise he would have toppled right over into her lap. She laughed over the dramatic infringement on her personal space. Yeah, we're gonna sit down. After all the effort they took in order to make that available, you couldn't reject the hospitality. You popped down onto the pre-warmed cushion. Mrs. Suarez looked past the man draped over her as if he was not currently attached at the hip and made eye contact with you. I hope you've enjoyed your big city vacation, Jules. I definitely did. Glad to hear it. As the pleasantries faded off, the Suarez spouses shared a meaningful glance with each other. The way of the occasion hadn't been forgotten. Well, while we've got you here, there's something I want to say. Did you know Gregorio and I met at a similar age as you and Derek? Technically.
That's true.
Mrs. Rice patted her husband's leg unconsciously while the gleam of a storyteller sparkled in her eyes. We attended the same high school at 14 or so. No, we never landed on the other's radar until senior year. He and I shared a class here and there. We did not run in the same social circles or have similar extracurricular pursuits. I almost missed her. Can you believe that? I cannot. What would I have done with my life then? Sometimes I wonder. Perhaps you'd be living in a mansion somewhere in the hills.
Well then.
Is that so? It is a worse fate than I feared. The longtime couple tittered and smiled rosily over one another. Meanwhile, you leaned in closer, ears perked. The topic intrigued you. How would Derek's parents come together? You didn't interrupt in order to ask. You knew with certainty that Mrs. Suarez would explain without prompting, and she did. You see, Jules, Mr. Suarez is a well-meaning man. When he gets a lot of compliments, he believes them. There's no end to how big his head can get. Derek may have mentioned this to you, but Rio, as he was called in the glory days, was on the football team. The words football team were said with mocking exaggeration, as though she could stop the explanation there. It was obvious where that was going. He and his footballer buddies had quite the egos and were such a clique. One completely random day in the cafeteria, him and his boys were acting like the gods on earth they thought they were. They talked big, and it was all crap. I spent my life tuning the whole set out, but that time I must have been staying closer to the noise than normal, or in an unusually petty mood. Whatever the reason, I began to gab with my own friends intentionally loud enough to be overheard. I said with exaggerated, wide-eyed innocence how strange it was that the jocks acted as if they were the greatest men alive. How did they come to such a conclusion when they've seemingly never spoken to a single person outside of their team? What do they know about who's better than anyone else? Folding her arms and bouncing her shoulders, Mrs. Suarez still felt self-satisfaction over that one decades later. The team noticed me then, mostly to give the stink eye, except for one who I could only describe as befuddled. I continued on, pretending I had no idea what was happening at the next table over. We were having plenty of fun on our side of the crowd, until all my friends went dead quiet. That got me to check again. One of the footballers had come over. He was built like a broad brick, though his face was anything but hardened. Too goofy and almost boyish for that. It was Rio, the linebacker, of course. He leaned over the table and said in his low, somehow booming voice, "What do you think of me? Am I not great to you?" He really said that? Irene and you were suddenly peers, sharing a fluster over the brashness of some strange football man. You snuck a glance at the other star of that scene. He was playing as naive as Mrs. Suarez had all those years ago, listening quietly and twiddling his thumbs. Yes, I couldn't believe it. I wasn't expecting any of them to actually care about my opinion. The obvious thought would be that he was trying to intimidate me, make me take it back, but he asked with so much earnestness that I didn't even consider that possibility. I shot out instantly that I don't like you, I don't know you. But I couldn't say I wouldn't like a man simply because he was on the football team. That's pathetic. Ping-ponging from shock to indignance, the outpouring of emotions reached its peak. Irene could be worked up no longer. She wasn't really a young lady recounting this for the first time. She knew the end of the tale, and despite being grown, it still put a schoolgirl smile on her face. Well, Mr. Suarez here had such a frown when he heard that. Truthfully, Derek looks the exact same way when he feels rejected, so you likely understand the position I was in. Someone so bright and bold with a face like that isn't right. It's as if all the joy in the entire world had vanished. That was too much. I looked him square in the face and said I wouldn't give him the time of day for that, but I might be willing to get to know him sometime because he was decently handsome. I love this. Of course, that soothed Rio's delicate soul, and he said, "Then we should do that. We are people who should know each other." When he grinned down at me, I knew this was more than I bargained for. I'd better prepare. If he didn't forget about me, I wasn't sure I'd ever have it in me to give up on him. But so far, it's never come to that. And it never will. Rio had been so quiet the whole story, he simply needed to burst in at the end. I cannot remember seeing Irene before that day in the lunchroom, yet as soon as I did see her, I knew I wanted her to think well of me. If she didn't, I must have been doing wrong. I am thankful you approve of me still. Even though I sneak our sons extra treats and cheat with their video games, I can't be a bad man if Irene can look past it. Mrs. Suarez hooked a hand around his wife's. You'd bet the grin he had on in that moment was the same one Irene had originally fallen for. That's right, you are a good man. No buts or qualifiers went along with the praise. She wholeheartedly expressed approval of her husband. You could see it go straight to Mr. Suarez's ego. Irene didn't take it away from him. The sweethearts were completely enamored and absorbed with one another. Yet Mrs. Suarez managed to pull her focus off the stud of her heart to address you again. It had to be serious. Thank you for listening to my self-indulgent story. What I really want to tell you is that I'm relieved Eric found someone who appreciated him for who he is. The weight of those words fell over you. She knew what happened with Eric. She knew that you were with him, regardless of what happened with his career trajectory. As his mother, it meant a great deal to her. Welcome to the family, Jules. Honestly, I'm moving here for more than just my own family. I want to be near the whole Suarez family, too. We are flattered.
Yes.
We are. Hand in hand, the two wonderful people who raised your amazing friend smiled over at you. You got to enjoy a little more quality time with Mr. and Mrs. Suarez. Eventually, they requested a moment with their eldest child, likely to share the same sentimental matters with him. That wasn't something you stand in the way of. It made room for the two to go have a special parent-to-child chat. So let's go have a road. Check in with our parents. Your parents remained at the dinner table, sipping on their water bottles and pretending to be nonchalant. They sent too many perfect glances between you and Liz to be convincing. Hello, sweetie.
Hey.
Welcome over.
How are you?
What's happening? Hi, I just wanted to see how you were doing. We're great.
How sweet.
We've been having a wonderful time. I know this trip was for you and Derek, but I am so grateful Pam and I could be here a little. Ma wrapped an arm around Mom with a light chuckle. Mom leaned her head gently into her wife and they both beamed. Time together is more important than time apart. Every bit counts. Well said. I love you all. Us too, kiddo. Absolutely. Thanks. Mom wrapped you in a big hug, and then you felt the weight of another person in her arms. You realized Mr. Holden got pulled in too. Your parents held you tight for another minute before letting go. Like Derek before them, they didn't intend to monopolize you forever. You left them to their own amazing company and drifted back towards the front of the living room. And now for the kiddies. Kidses. There we go. Jorge, Nicholas, and Liz were gathered in a corner of the room, fully engrossed in conversation. Jorge's hand batted in the air between the group as Nicholas jerked a finger about. Hey, what are you talking about over here? Whoops. sorry, too soon. What are you talking about over here? You were welcomed at the circle with friendly smiles. Jorge folded his arms and switched from one explanation to another. Nicholas was giving something to the effect of a recap to Liz. While talking about the trip, we realized she'd yet to hear about our new interesting acquaintance, so she was being filled in. Apparently, the Xavier person running some bakery used to paint faces at the boardwalk. Small world, There's no end to the odd connections you end up making with people.
Yeah.
We were getting philosophical. I'm lucky I got to meet each one of you. So am I, Jules. Me too, but they said. Her sister was satisfied, snickering into her palm. Besides all that, I have to say I'm surprised Nicholas was the one who reconnected with Xavier. Wouldn't he struggle to recognize them? You know, considering the fact that he was in sleep the entire day. I fell asleep after I got my face painted, thanks, and I've been to that boardwalk more than once. I didn't conk out every time. Try a better tease. The dare was meant for Liz, that's what he'd readied himself for, and why he spoke with boldness. Alright. Unfortunately for Nicholas, however, it was Jorge who took on the challenge. Speaking plainly, with a mischievous twinkle deep in his eyes, you knew it wasn't going to go well for his little brother. The only reason Xavier was able to recognize you out of any of us is because you're still a little kid, just taller. How's that? Good one! Nico pouted. That round he had no comeback. However, he did have a new strategy. Nicholas looked to you, still only a potential ally, treated like the child he insisted he wasn't. The irony wasn't lost on Nico, and he intentionally played to that. Jules, these two meanies are ganging up on me. It's not Nico's fault. He hit on a great style at 6. Right, I'm flawless, as is. Jules said so. But they said you've got the same style you did at 6. And you were complaining about Jorge calling you a kid. I'll let that one pass. You, Liz, Jorge, and Nicholas laughed together and continued to chat on the mysteries of life. None of them said this was goodbye, but when the evening wore on and you needed to move away from the sibling group, the CUs shared between you meant more than usual. You'd worked the room, made your rounds, and had a few minutes to yourself. You used it to think and reflect. There was a lot to consider. Life was barreling forward for you. Unfortunately, no inner peace or full understanding of the universe came while you zoned out in a corner. Perhaps as a consolation, you were rewarded with Derek returning to you after finishing his talk with Mr. and Mrs. Juarez, and he had an idea.
So?
Hey, want to go out to the balcony? Get some fresh air? Same as he did when he first parted ways with you, Derek plainly left the most crucial part of his motivation unsaid. This might be the last time you had a chance to be alone together before you had to go. That sounds nice. Cool. He quietly went to the sliding glass panels at one end of the living room. But progress halted. Arms folded, Derek stared at the closed door as an impassable wall. Aren't you going to get that for me? You strangled a laugh. That was something you should have seen coming. It was what you wanted, of course. Derek would end up letting you have it. Accepted the baton in the form of a door handle and opened it. After you.
Thank you.
Why, thanks, Jules. Derek passed on by with his head held high. He followed right after. The event was still alive with small pockets of conversation. You and Derek managed to slip away without notice. As soon as you walked out, a warm evening breeze caressed your body. It carried the sharp scent of the ocean and the delicate perfume of the flowers who made their own home at Derek's place. Derek ignored the one lonely chair on the veranda and rested up against the rail exactly as he did the first time. On the horizon, the sea gleamed like molten gold encasing a city of silver. You leaned against the railing too. Out there, he had his spot and you had yours. All was as it should be. The seemingly endless expanse in front of you, with nothing more than a few thin barns between you and it, was a welcome sight. When you both settled in, Derek grinned as if it was any other day, or rather because he couldn't help smiling at you no matter the circumstances. Jules, I owe an apology, or at least an explanation. No, both. You blinked. If there was one thing you could count on, it was that Derek's warrants wouldn't do you wrong. Not intentionally, anyway. Huh? About what? Well, that's obvious. I had asked you to marry me, in a way, and I almost didn't realize this was the year it was supposed to happen. How inconsiderate can I get? That outburst sapped him of all energy. Derek's shoulders slumped, and his tone dropped even lower.
It's
We've
been
been
a
apart for
long
a long time. Looks like I was in denial about how long. Days, weeks, months, and years just went by before I even knew it. Couldn't be the deadline already, I thought. No way, especially with how not grown up I felt and how non-figured out everything was. But it was true. The summer when we were 23 was the year I picked. Is it good or bad timing that this marriage pact plan coincided with my career crisis? I don't know. The rhetorical question lingered. Then a bit of humor returned to Derek's darkened features. Actually, I do. It is for the best that it all happened now. We could work the whole mess out in one. Though that was also part of why I lost sight of things. I don't want you to think it meant nothing because of that.
I swear.
It's not that it didn't matter to me. It mattered so much I couldn't even face it. I had to run away. Derek almost cracked from the self-imposed pressure. His voice did break. I mentioned some of it already, but asking you to marry me if there was nobody else wasn't one of those wild, impulsive stunts I pull sometimes. I really thought it through. As in, I thought through all the ways I could maybe be with you without daring to just ask you to be with me.
The truth
I hinged
is,
a lot of hopes on that plan, but it was wishful thinking to see it as a solution. It doesn't work that way. His gaze parted from yours. He had nothing in particular to take his attention, so Derek was simply staring straight ahead. The future is looking bright, Jules. I love the city and my family, but honestly, it really was missing something. Coming back to Prism Vista knowing you were gone already was a blow. That's patched up now. I'm so pumped you're going to be moving in. I feel like I can get off a treadmill for the first time in over a decade and go somewhere, possibly on a walk with my partner. It thrilled you to see Derek bursting with real optimism, not simply wanting and hoping that it would be okay in the face of fears, but having certainty that it would be good. You both embraced what was coming next with open arms. I'm looking forward to it too. Awesome! His heavy arm wrapped around your shoulders. He curled it in, bringing you closer towards him. We're gonna kiss him. Gotta go for the smooch. Come on. It was lovely and precious and much too short. Hey, your parents told me the story of how they got together.
Oh yeah.
The lunchroom showdown. Pretty funny, huh? My dad told me he loved to remind the rest of the team how Irene may not like footballers, but she did like him. That's good, but it doesn't beat your marriage pact. It's the height of romantic hijinks. Thanks? You know, if I ever have a team again, I'll be sure to tell them how Jules liked me before I made it. I can tell my future co-workers. Whoever. Wow, thank you. You and your darling boyfriend exchanged more sweet smooches, cuddly and adoring to a degree that would certainly be embarrassing to outsiders, if there were any around. And then a swooping sound snatched your attention away from Derek. The sliding door had been opened. The youngest son skipped in, as if invited, and the middle child followed after. Jorge was less cheeky, but equally unrepentant. Hi, Derek. Hi, Jules. Hello. What's going on? Derek flung his head back and groaned. He let go of you with all the begrudging frustration of a teen boy caught canoodling under the bleachers by the teacher. Not again. Every damn time. There's no privacy anywhere, even in my own house.
Hey.
Nicholas handled the childish display with unearned airs of maturity. His voice was tall, and he kind of teasing finger through the air. You're the one who invited us over. If you wanted to be alone with Jules, why did you throw a party with several other people? That was a strong voice. Worse still for Derek, Jorge had an even better one. Honestly confused by his big brother's reaction, he plainly stated a key consideration. This whole side of the apartment is glass. We could see everything happening without opening the door. Coming over feels more polite to me than watching from the inside. At that, Derek snorted a laugh. He was less ashamed of what you were doing than Nicholas was for interrupting it.
I see how it is.
It made sense to get together one more time before they left, but I'm regretting not being so reasonable now. One of these days we might learn to be more self-centered, and then you'll be sorry.
Sorry.
I kinda doubt that. The part about you ever being selfish, not us being sorry over it. Yeah, sorry bro, that's not happening. Yeah, just amused. It's so funny. Those kids, none of this surprised you. But that couldn't be the end of it. Trouble came in threes. Your own sibling appeared from behind. She leaned against the doorway, leering at the scene. Romancing out in the open while all your siblings and parents were right there? I had no idea the two of you were so indulgent. One rotten apple spoiled the rest. Nicholas and Jorge had originally barged in with pure intentions of being with you. Now they were snickering over Liz's jabs jabs at your and Derek's expense. Sorry we couldn't babysit you the whole time. Ooh, of course this happened. Why expect anything else? That's what Derek's slyly lifted brows seemed to express. You know, we were just talking about how self-absorbed I am, and how it's not enough in my opinion. From even further ahead in the house, Mrs. Suarez waved a hand popped up over your sister's head. It's okay, we're fine on our own. Enjoy your time together. Your parents were bursting with laughter, ineffectively trying to model that staying quiet would have been less obtrusive than thwarting the situation.
Really?
Oh, really? Dad. Your trouble estimates were proven to be highly underestimated. It didn't come in 3, it came in as many amounts as physically possible. Mrs. Suarez came to get her husband, clearing a path through Liz, Jorge, and Nicholas.
Excuse me.
Excuse us. She escorted him back to the couch without fuss, but no amount of cordialness on her and could smooth out this 3-ring circus. Derek barely saw the retreating forms of his abashed parents, or your moms and Mr. Holden's giggling fit in the distance, or even set siblings watching and waiting for what would happen next. His arms were folded and his brain was working. You and he had become the center of the universe, and that wouldn't do. In the end, Mr. Reliable himself went for his oldest, most reliable solution to awkward situations. Hey, look over there.
What?
At what? While the others were clearly distracted by Derek's fantastic voice, Ed Mastermind slid nearer to you and whispered intently, Run! You nodded imperceptibly to everyone but Derek, whose focus was set entirely on seeing that gesture. You both knew what had to be done. Your hand found his, and his yours without tearing your eyes from the target. An escape route. Out the front! You dashed through the opening left by Mrs. Suarez, speeding by Liz before she could block the way again. The elders were shocked, the younger ones were shouting, but you didn't stop. Through the gap from sliding glass door, past the couches, and out the apartment's entrance, you and Derek ditched the whole party in a blink. Together you flew down the stairs. There was no patience to wait for an elevator. Once on ground level, you exploded through the last set of doors in your path and onto the sidewalk, leaving laughter and joy in your wake. You may have escaped the building, but who knew if they'd followed you out? That wasn't something you put past your siblings. The hand gripping yours still held tight. Derek encouraged you along, beaming wide. Let's go! Just grinning at him just as sweetly. Friends, lovers, partners in crime, formerly conditional fiancés. No matter the circumstances, you and Derek were always a team, and together you were unstoppable. In Derek's bright eyes, you saw reflections of your past. That first day you met when he bounded up to you so unafraid. The time he much less bravely bolted from a very cross Elizabeth. Your grand exit from a different party, one you hadn't been invited to. And the moment you arrived in the Prism City bus station such a short and long time ago, when he'd come running for you. Literally. Each happy moment you experienced became only a memory of what used to be, but that's what life was, and it was okay. Right then you were running side by side. You wouldn't take it for granted, and you wouldn't waste a chance. Instead, you would keep going for as long as your feet could carry you. As it should be, you and Derek took another step forward, and then another. Forward and forward and forward, down the glistening city street and towards the rest of your lives. Together. Thank you for beginning a life here. You can come back again always. The end. Ta-da! Whew. Okay. Alright. Okay, that's it for Derek's DLC. We're gonna start Baxter's DLC next week. Yay! Once I get it all set up, of course, which that's the plan. I have a whole week to do it. Let's see if I actually remember to do it. Thank you for joining me. I'm sorry that it randomly stopped in the middle. And sorry for the doubled up bit there. Yeah, so I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me and hope you have a great day. Bye!